Theranos, how a $9 billion company collapsed, the ultimate business failure story. They promised to revolutionize healthcare. One drop of blood, hundreds of tests, no needles, no hassles, just innovation, but it was all a lie. Today, we unpack the incredible rise and catastrophic fall of Theranos, once valued at $9 billion, now remembered as one of the biggest frauds in Silicon Valley history. Stick around because there is more than a story. It's a lesson in ambition, blind faith, and what happens when hype replaces the truth. Chapter 1: The Visionary Beginning. In 2003, a 90-year-old Stanford dropout named Elizabeth Holmes had a dream. She wanted to democratize health diagnosis, make blood testing easy, fast, and painless. She founded Theranos, combining the words therapy and diagnosis. Investors were intrigued. She wore black turtlenecks, idolized Steve Jobs, and spoke with a deep, authoritative voice. People listened. Holmes claimed that her invention, called the Edison, could run over 200 blood tests using just a finger prick. But there was one problem. Chapter 2: Investors without any questions. Theranos raised over $700 million from powerful investors without ever publishing a single peer-reviewed study. Why? Because they weren't scientists, they were politicians, businessmen, and celebrities. Holmes kept her technology secret. She claimed it was to protect her intellectual property, but in reality, the tech didn't work. Still, Walgreens signed a $140 million deal. Safeway spent $350 million building in-store clinics. Nobody saw what was coming. Chapter 3: The Science Unravels. In 2015, investigative journalist John Cabral started asking questions. He spoke to former employees, engineers, to lab techs, even whistleblowers. They revealed the truth. The Edison machine was inaccurate. Theranos was secretly using third-party lab equipment for tests. Patients were getting dangerous misdiagnoses. Carol's Wall Street Journal exposed blew the lid off the illusion. Holmes denied everything, but the regulators weren't buying it. Chapter 4: The Collapse. The Centers for Medical Care and Medicaid Services, also known as CMS, investigated and found massive violations. Theranos lost its lab license. In 2016, Walgreens terminated its partnership. Investors began suing. The house of cards was crumbling. By 2018, Elizabeth Holmes and COO Sunny Balwani were charged with criminal fraud. They had misled doctors, patients, investors, and the whole world. Chapter 5: The Trial. In 2022, Holmes was found guilty on 4 counts of fraud. She was sentenced to over 11 years in prison. Balwani got nearly 13 years. Both claimed they were trying to help people, but the jury saw through the narrative. It wasn't just a failed startup. There was a systematic deception that risked real lives. Chapter 6: The Aftermath. It shows how charisma can blind logic and how Silicon Valley can fake logic until you make it culture, and how much that can go so far. Theranos is now a cautionary tale, but there's more to learn. Never skip due diligence. Transparency matters, especially in healthcare, and technology without accountability is dangerous. Chapter 7: Final Thoughts. Theranos didn't fail because of a bad idea. It failed because of ego, secrecy, and a refusal to accept reality. In business, failure is okay, but fraud is not. So if you're building a company, ask yourself, are you chasing progress or just perception? Because in the end, truth always catches up. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories from the world.
Is there anything that you want to say?
Elizabeth Holmes speaking out for the first time since being convicted of fraud, in a voice far different than the one she used as CEO of her failed biotech company, Theranos.
She didn't resemble the iconic image we all remember of her time as CEO of Theranos with the black turtlenecks, crimson lipstick, and green juices.
First they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world.
The baritone voice is now gone. She just talks in a normal voice.
In an interview with People magazine from the Texas federal prison where she served nearly 2 years of her sentence for defrauding investors in her billion-dollar startup, Holmes saying, quote, "It's been hell and torture to be here." Holmes revealing there's not a day that she hasn't continued working on her research and inventions from behind bars, saying that she's committed to her dream of making affordable healthcare solutions available to everyone.
She doesn't think she defrauded anyone or lied to anyone. She believes in the technology and believed, one day, potentially, if she had more time, she would have changed the world, and wants to try to do that when she gets out.
Hello, Walgreens. Welcome to Theranos.
In a case that riveted the public and inspired a TV series and documentary. Patients who used Theranos' medical devices for blood tests testified that they received false diagnoses for miscarriages and diseases like HIV. Following a nearly 4-month trial, Holmes was found guilty of fraud and sentenced to 11 years in prison, which has already been reduced to 9 for good behavior. Holmes is expected to be released in 2032, and she continues to appeal her sentence. In the meantime, Holmes' daily life looks far different than during her years as a biotech trailblazer. By 8 a.m., Holmes begins her work as a reentry clerk, helping women inmates write resumes and prepare to apply for government benefits upon their release from prison. She also teaches French classes. Twice a week, she sees her 2 young children and her partner, Billy Evans. Holmes' first child was born just before her trial began, and her second 3 months before she reported to federal prison. Their time together, the highlight of Holmes' days behind bars, saying goodbye the hardest part.
Holmes and her co-defendant, Sunny Balwani, were also ordered to pay $452 million in restitution. Holmes' attorney did not respond to our request for comment. Holmes says that she's speaking out now because she feels passionately about advocating for other prisoners, especially other mothers who are separated from their children.
All right, Chloe, thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.